Let's talk about how we can get you from 20% body fat to 12% body fat without your fitness journey taking over your life. And that's something that I need to stress because as you can see from the transformations that I get with my clients, we get really good results. However, that does not have to come at a cost of your livelihood. You have busy, stressful lives. You have far more important things to worry about than the amount of calories and macros that you're sticking to. But that doesn't mean that you can't get elite level results. And I'm going to show you how in this YouTube video. So let's get stuck into this. Most men don't get stuck around 20% body fat because they're lazy or unmotivated. They get stuck because everything they've tried beforehand was built for a life that they don't actually live. The guys that I work with, they work long hours, they are very stressful, they have a lot of social events going on, and they make some progress. However, any progress that they make is short-lived because the plan that they're doing doesn't work around their lifestyle properly. In this video, I'm going to show you how the men that I work with consistently drop from around 18 to 22% body fat down to a lean, maintainable 12% without living in a gym or cutting out their social life or rebounding straight back up. And before we get into this, let's get clear about something. 12% is the goal here, not anywhere leaner like 8%, which is like stage lean, photo shoot lean, or just in a place where they're staying miserable. 12% is about being lean, feeling good in your clothes. It's about being confident with your top off. It's about being strong, athletic, and energetic, and making sure that it's sustainable with a normal life. Anything leaner than that starts to require obsession, constant hunger, and lifestyle trade-offs that most men don't want and need. A little caveat on that because I don't think it's the end of the world to get to 8% body fat if you're getting there for a short period, such as a photo shoot. I actually think that there are some benefits because what's required to get to 8% is a high level of self-control, a good amount of skill acquisition, and basically traits which are going to help you stay in shape long term. Whilst I don't recommend you stay that lean long term, there's definitely some benefit in at least getting there in the short term. But let's talk about the 20% body fat trap because I find that this is the danger zone that most men sit in for years. You're not overweight enough for you to panic and think that there's something wrong with your health and actually have some health threats, yet you're not lean enough to actually feel good about how you look. You're kind of in this middle ground where you're just fine, but you accept meh as okay. This is where men tend to start strong Monday to Friday. They blow it all out on the weekend. They rely on motivation instead of set systems that work around their lifestyle, and they repeat the same 5 to 10 kilo weight loss every single year, or I would argue every couple of months when they can be bothered or motivated to start up again. The problem with this isn't necessarily effort. The problem is fragility. Your approach only works when life is calm, and let's be honest, life is never really calm for all of us apart from that 2 weeks in a year. So let's fix that. Let's talk about the 4-part system to reach and hold 12% body fat, and I need to stress that it's about holding onto it. Who wants 12% body fat or to look and feel their greatest only in the short term? It doesn't make any sense. So at Transcend, we're big in making sure that you can maintain your progress long term. Let's talk about the 4 parts, and I need to stress that this only works when all 4 are in place. You miss one and you either stall, burn out, or rebound, which we do not want, right? So let's talk about training, building the engine first. If your plan to get lean is by doing more cardio, this is where the whole system breaks. Now, most men default to running, classes, HIIT classes, random workouts, thinking that if they burn calories, that's going to be the best thing for them to have the body that they want. And whilst it does burn more calories than training, it doesn't mean it's necessarily better for your goals. So something to keep in mind is that cardio can help you get there, but muscle is the thing that keeps you lean long term. And when I say training, I'm not speaking about training 6 days a week, having brutal training sessions where you are just burning yourself out, or you have any fancy programming which requires you to train twice a day. That's not needed. This just increases the stress that your body is under and makes other elements of your journey harder, i.e. your nutrition. Because when you are stressed, you're emotionally volatile, and when you're emotionally volatile, it's going to be harder to maintain a certain standard with your nutrition. So we don't want to push ourselves too much. When I am speaking about training, I'm talking about 2 to 3 structured strength training sessions per week. I'm talking about progressive overload, which is basically increasing the amount of reps or weights that you're doing every single session. And I'm talking about consistency over intensity. I'd rather you train 2 or 3 times per week and be consistent than train 4 or 5 times a week and not be consistent. It's all about consistency. Training less but with better quality training sessions is far superior for results. Now, the reason muscle mass is so important for your results is because it raises your metabolic baseline. That increases the amount of calories that you burn at rest, and that is what gives you the body shape that you want. This is why the men who just focus on cardio get skinny fat, they feel weaker, and they rebound fast. strength is a non-negotiable if maintaining 12% is the goal. And no shade on Mo Farah. However, I have never coached a client who told me they want a physique like Mo Farah. Unless you do want a physique like Mo Farah, I'd suggest you make sure that you're getting your training sessions in. Now let's talk about your nutrition. And it's so important that when it comes to your nutrition, you only have a small deficit, which is going to allow you to have a high level of control. Now, this is where most men sabotage themselves. They get too aggressive when it comes to their diet. They are too restrictive, and then they become all or nothing. And then they wonder why it doesn't last. But the truth is, if you can't see yourself eating this way in 2 to 3 years, it will not work. But we're talking about the style, the plan that you're using to put yourself in a deficit. A good example is the keto diet. You're going to cut out carbs. Short term, yeah, you're going to lose a lot of weight. Now, that will be water weight, of course. However, you're only going to be able to sustain your results for as long as you're able to stick to no carbs. And I don't know about you, but life without carbs is not a life worth living. And I find most people agree, so don't do it at the start if you're not going to be able to maintain it long term. Yes, fat loss requires a calorie deficit, but the size of the deficit matters. If it's too big, you're going to be constantly hungry and you're going to blow out on the weekends because you've over-restricted yourself. If you over-restrict yourself, you're going to have mental fatigue and your life is just going to suck, so you're going to quit that dieting plan. And if your diet plan is too complex, then you're going to struggle when it comes to consistency. The standard and what you want to live by is have a moderate deficit, have a high amount of protein, roughly 1 gram per pound of body weight. This is going to help you maintain your muscle mass and fight off your hunger. Have simple, repeatable meals and have flexibility built in when you have more time and mental capacity to manage your food in a different way. So a good example that I use with all of my clients is Monday to Friday, you have a set plan. You have easy, repeatable meals that you basically don't stray from. On the weekends, when you have social occasions, and like I said, you have more time and mental capacity to mix and match the different foods that you want, then yeah, be flexible on the weekends, but you don't need to be flexible during the week. I haven't seen anybody successfully get to 12% sticking to flexible meal planning 7 days a week. It doesn't work. I need to stress that you do not need to be perfect or make sure you suffer. You just need controlled eating. The goal is to feel steady, in control, and not white knuckle your week. If you're waking up every day and you have to use discipline to stay on track, then my friend, it's only going to be a matter of time before you fuck yourself up and cheat on your diet, so don't white knuckle it. This is how fat loss actually sticks. Now let's talk about cardio. Now, despite what I said earlier, cardio is not the enemy. Misuse of it is. See, most men do cardio which is too intense, they do it too often, and they do it while they're under fueled. And what I mean by that is that they're in a calorie deficit, they're restricting their calories, so they're going to struggle to recover. This creates hunger, fatigue, injuries, and burnout. The best way for you to apply cardio to your transformation journey is low intensity, steady state movement. Think daily steps. Consistent movement you do not dread. Why? Because this burns calories without spiking hunger. It doesn't interfere with your training. It doesn't require a lot of recovery, and it fits into your daily life. Hard cardio does have its place later in the diet, if that. I have actually had clients who have reached 12% without doing any sort of intense cardio, but it's especially not needed when you're starting your diet, and you can get loads out of your daily steps. And I wanted to include a graph which shows you how you burn your daily calories. As you can see, your metabolism makes up the majority of your calorie burnage. Next up is your steps. Next up is your planned exercise, and then lastly, it's the amount of calories you burn whilst eating. As you can see, the biggest controllable factor you have is in your steps when it comes to burning calories. Something to know. Now let's talk about the maintenance phase, and this is hands down where 99% of men actually fail, because getting lean isn't the hard part, staying lean is. Most men hit their goal and then they stop tracking, they eat normally again and eat all of the foods that they missed, they remove the structure which actually got them in shape in the first place, and they inevitably gain all of their weight back because they never learned how to maintain it. Important point to note is that you don't stop everything that helps you lose weight, you transition out of it, and this is otherwise known as a reverse diet, which basically means you slowly increase your calories, you make sure that your weight is holding steady, you monitor your biofeedback, which is basically your hunger levels, your energy levels, and you adjust your training and cardio. Now, maintenance is about skill and getting to a certain part of the process. So by the time you've got to this phase in the journey, you would have a good grasp on your nutrition, your training, you would have built healthy habits, you would have done the reverse diet and put yourself in a position where you're eating more food and maintaining your progress. And the combination of all of these skills is why you are going to be able to maintain your progress long term. And it's what separates men who can get in shape once from the men who actually stay in shape. This is where your your identity actually changes. You're no longer somebody who is trying to get lean, but you're somebody who just operates lean naturally. The biggest shift that you can make, and this is the part that matters, isn't just the training, it's not the food or the cardio, it's your level of thinking. Not can I have a perfect week and hope nothing goes wrong. It's accepting that the circumstances that you find yourself in on a daily basis can be responded to differently. That's how you get in shape, and that's how you stay in shape. Men who reach 12% and hold it stop panicking after a bad meal, they stop quitting when life gets busy, and they stop waiting for motivation to hold a certain standard. They respond to the same circumstances that used to throw them off in a different way. They adjust, they continue, they stay in control, and that's the system which is going to help you get and stay in shape. The final thought that I want to leave you with is that 12% body fat is not extreme, it's not obsessive, and it's not reserved for fitness models. It's what happens when your plan fits your life, your systems don't rely on motivation, and your standards stay steady under pressure. This is why we built Transcend. Not for short-term results, but for a body you don't have to keep starting over with. So guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you learned a lot. If you want to find out more about how we transform the lives of the men inside of our programs, then hit the link in my bio. You're going to be able to find out a lot more information, and watch out for the next video. Thanks for watching.